Hello and welcome to another video by Day Night Gaming. Now today I'd like to discuss with you the Fury spec for Sith Marauder. Now before we begin, let me point out that this spec revolves around and specializes in creating short but at the same time high yield burst windows. What I mean by that is you're going to first start off with a ramp up phase where you're going to be accumulating buffs on yourself, and then you're going to use those buffs to basically unload really strong abilities. So as you can see here, Furious Strike already does quite a lot of damage on its own. And then if you take a look at your 6-piece set bonus, Activating Ravage will grant Weapon Master's critical bonus, making your next Furious Strike critically hit. This effect cannot occur more than once every minute. And then if you take a look at Raging Burst, this gets powered up by abilities like Furious Rage. Furious Strike grants Furious Rage, increasing the critical damage bonus for your next Raging Burst by 15%. Another one to take a look at is Destruction. Berserk and Force Crush grant Destruction, increasing the damage dealt by your next Smash or Raging Burst by 15% and making your next Raging Burst consume no rage. And then also finally you take a look at Dominate. Dominate is Force Charge and Obliterate, make your next Raging Burst used within 20 seconds an automatic crit. So as you can see, between those three abilities you're getting quite a large boost and an automatic crit on your Raging Burst, which in itself is already really strong. So that's basically how this class works out. Alright, now I'm going to show you what my rotation looks like if I already have 30 stacks. Now here I'm going to set the training dummy to 500k health, and then I'm going to shatter its armor. So please keep in mind that those are the two debuffs that I currently set on the training dummy. After doing so, I'm going to brooding up to 30 stacks to simulate that I already have full stacks ready to go. Then I'm going to Force Charge and I'm going to Berserk. After I do that, then I'm going to actually start the real rotation. So we go. As you can see, I'm brooding. Got my 30 stacks there. Then I'm going to Force Charge and Berserk. Then I'm going to Ravage, Raging Burst, Furious Strike, Obliterate, Force Crush, Force Scream, Battering Throw, Raging Burst, Furious Strike, Obliterate, Vicious Slash, Berserk, and then Vicious Slash again. I'm going to start over, starting with Ravage, and I'm going to work my way all the way back down to Berserk and Vicious Slash. And after that, just pretty much rinse and repeat. Now as you can see, the first Vicious Slash that comes up, it also says Aura Vicious Throw. If the target is able to be Vicious Throwed, I'd rather use that instead, if I have it ready on cooldown. But that usually only happens at 30% or less HP, or if I have obfuscated the target. Well, there you go, there's the rotation. Alright, now let's talk about my favorite discussion, stat optimization. Now please keep in mind that this is for the Fury specialization of Sith Marauder, and depending on your class or specialization, you might want to achieve different numbers. Also note that PvP and PvE have completely different numbers that you want to try to strive for. And lastly, as a disclaimer, the following numbers and recommendations are purely my own personal opinion, and other people's opinions may vary, and that's perfectly fine. So let's start off discussing PvP. Now, PvP is very important to note that Furious Strike is considered white damage, and because of that, you want to get to 105% accuracy, and that's because you don't want to miss this ability. This makes up a large portion of your burst damage. Between this and Raging Burst, these are your two hardest hitting abilities, so you don't want to miss any Furious Strikes at all. After you hit your 105% accuracy, the next number that you want to try to achieve is 703 alacrity. Or if you want to go a little bit faster, you can go for 1860. These are very specific numbers, so any number in between doesn't really change anything. It's very important to note that this goes by tiers, and I'll be posting those tiers on the screen. But for me, at 703 alacrity, that gives me 1.4 seconds on my global cooldown. After achieving your accuracy and your alacrity, the next number you want to move into is critical rating. Now, please take note that critical rating has what's called diminishing returns. What that means is, as you start to add more and more points, once you get above approximately 1700, they start to give less and less per point that you add in afterwards. To show you that, let me show you what it looks like at 2308 versus approximately 2000. So at 2308, I have plus 22.58% critical chance. When I move into 2000, I have 21.06% critical chance. So as you can see, it starts to give less and less. So after you go for 2300, or for me at least, after I get to 2300, I then start to move the rest of my augments into Mastery, as you can see here. And that's because Mastery also gives critical chance. So as you can see here, I have 8107, and that yields me 13.21%. It also gives me bonus damage, so it's a very important stat. And since the diminishing returns are so high on critical rating after 2300, that's the next stat that I personally like to push into. Alright, now that we've got through with that, let's move on to PvE. So for PvE, the stats that I like to try to achieve is 110% accuracy. And that's because the bosses have basically a boosted 10% defense rating when it comes to their dodging. So yeah, you want to get to 110%. That way you hit as many abilities as you can. Now for alacrity, that's personal opinion. Now I think that it's very important to get to 1860 alacrity for PvE, but because it takes so long to acquire gear through OSIS to get your 252 and 258, I personally only have one set of gear, so I stuck with the 703 as my alacrity. But going to 1860 alacrity definitely helps much more than adding Mastery. But anyways, after you get your alacrity number that you want to get to, then once again you move next on to critical rating, and you want to try and get this as high as possible. Some people try to get to 2000, but it gets really hard. If you're trying to get 1860 alacrity, you're probably gonna still get about 1700 on critical rating. Now it's very important to note that if you have the means to do it, you don't want to have mastery augments in your PvE set. So as you can see here, this is extremely unoptimized, and it would have been better served to push into Alacrity. But like I said, I'm using this set for both PvP as well as PvE. So it's up to your opinion. Now if you're strictly a PvE player, then I highly recommend once again to go into Alacrity first, achieve 1860, and then move into critical. Alright, so hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helps. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.